One of the most painful experiences for a woman is connecting with a man who seems present, but never fully available. He talks to you, he shows interest, he comes close, and then something feels missing. And the most confusing part is this: emotionally unavailable men rarely look unavailable at the beginning. They don't announce it. They don't reject you openly. They often do just enough to keep hope alive. This is why understanding the signs matters, not to judge men, but to protect yourself. Let me start with the first and most important one. One of the clearest signs a man is emotionally unavailable is that he avoids emotional depth while enjoying emotional benefits. This is subtle, and that's why it's dangerous. An emotionally unavailable man can spend time with you, talk to you regularly, laugh with you, even be affectionate. On the surface, everything looks promising. But when the connection begins to move toward depth, toward vulnerability, clarity, or emotional responsibility, he pulls back. Not dramatically, quietly. He changes the subject when emotions come up. He keeps conversations light when things feel real. He avoids defining what the connection means. From your side, this feels confusing. You think, if he didn't care, he wouldn't be here. And you're right, he does care to a degree. But caring is not the same as being emotionally available. An emotionally available man allows closeness to deepen. An emotionally unavailable man allows closeness only up to a point. He enjoys the warmth, the attention, the companionship, but he resists the parts that require emotional presence. He doesn't want to hold emotional space, he doesn't want to be seen deeply, and he doesn't want to be responsible for someone else's heart. This is why women often feel emotionally alone inside the connection. You're talking but not being met. You're sharing but not being held. You're hoping but not being chosen clearly. And because he doesn't explicitly reject you, you stay. You try to be patient. You lower expectations. You tell yourself not to rush him. But here's the truth I want you to hear clearly. An emotionally unavailable man is not confused. He is contained. He has learned how close he can get without opening himself fully. And he will stay right at that edge for as long as you allow it. This is not because you aren't enough. It's because emotional depth feels threatening to him. Emotionally mature women don't try to pull depth out of men who avoid it. They observe patterns. They notice where connection stops growing, and they don't confuse emotional crumbs with emotional presence. The first sign of emotional unavailability is not absence, it is limited access. And recognizing that early can save you a great deal of time, energy, and self-doubt. 2. Another strong sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he is consistent in presence, but inconsistent in depth. This is where many women get stuck, because consistency is usually taught as the marker of seriousness. He texts regularly, he checks in, he shows up sometimes, he doesn't disappear completely. And because of that, you assume emotional availability must be there. But consistency without depth is not availability, it's maintenance. An emotionally unavailable man knows how to stay connected without becoming exposed. He maintains contact, but he controls closeness. He keeps the connection alive while keeping his inner world protected. From your side, this feels like mixed signals. Some days he feels warm, open, almost intimate. Other days he feels distant, vague, emotionally flat. And when you sense the shift and try to understand it, he often minimizes it. You're overthinking. Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired. These responses aren't lies, they're deflections. An emotionally available man is willing to explore emotional shifts. He may not always have perfect language, but he engages. An emotionally unavailable man avoids emotional inquiry because inquiry leads to exposure. This is why the connection starts to feel one-sided emotionally. You're reflecting, you're checking in, you're adjusting. He's present, but guarded. And the longer this goes on, the more emotional labor you carry. You start doing the emotional work of two people while telling yourself he just needs time. Here's the truth that matters. Emotional availability is not measured by how often a man shows up. It's measured by how deeply he meets you when he does. A man can be physically present and emotionally absent at the same time. Emotionally mature women don't just track effort, they track emotional responsiveness. They notice whether their feelings are acknowledged, explored, and held. They notice whether conversations evolve or stay safely on the surface. When a man avoids depth consistently, it's not a phase, it's a pattern. And patterns don't change through patience alone. This doesn't mean you confront aggressively. It means you stop compensating. You stop filling emotional gaps. You stop hoping consistency will eventually turn into intimacy. Because intimacy requires willingness, not time. A man who is emotionally unavailable may enjoy closeness, but he will resist depth. And if depth keeps stalling, the answer is already there. Consistency without depth is not safety, it's stagnation. And emotionally strong women don't build futures in stagnation. They build them where growth is mutual. 3. Another clear sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he avoids accountability for emotional impact. This doesn't mean he is cruel or intentionally hurtful. In fact, emotionally unavailable men often see themselves as good guys. They don't want to hurt you. They just don't want to deal with emotions, especially when those emotions point back to them. So when you express how something made you feel, notice what happens. Instead of listening, he deflects. Instead of reflecting, he explains. Instead of taking responsibility, he minimizes. He might say things like, "I didn't mean it that way. You're too sensitive. That's not what I was trying to do." On the surface, these sound reasonable. But look deeper. None of these responses actually engage with your experience. They focus on his intention, not your emotional reality. An emotionally available man understands something important. Impact matters more than intent. He may not have meant to hurt you, but if he did, he's willing to sit with that, understand it, and adjust. An emotionally unavailable man avoids that process because it threatens his emotional comfort. From your side, this creates a quiet erosion of trust. You stop bringing things up, you soften your feelings, you start editing yourself to avoid tension. And without realizing it, you are carrying emotional responsibility that should be shared. This is one of the most exhausting dynamics a woman can be in. You feel things deeply, but you don't feel met. You're emotionally awake, but alone in that awareness. And the more you try to explain yourself calmly, the more you feel unseen. Here's the truth that protects you. A man who cannot take responsibility for emotional impact is not emotionally available, no matter how kind, intelligent, or attentive he seems in other areas. Emotional availability requires humility. It requires the ability to say, "I see how that affected you," even when it wasn't intentional. It requires staying present in discomfort instead of escaping it. When a man consistently avoids this, he's showing you his emotional ceiling. And emotional ceilings don't rise just because you love harder. Emotionally mature women don't argue for accountability. They observe whether it exists. They notice whether a man can hear them without defending himself, without minimizing, without shutting down. Because accountability is not about blame, it's about connection. And where accountability is missing, emotional safety never fully forms. 4. Another strong sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he keeps his inner world compartmentalized. This means you can know him without knowing him. You might know his routines, his work schedule, his hobbies, his humor. You might even know details about his past. But there is a clear line you don't cross. Certain topics are off limits. Certain emotions are never shared. Certain parts of his life feel closed. When you approach those areas, he becomes vague or distant. He answers but doesn't open. He shares facts, not feelings. He tells stories without revealing impact. This creates a connection that feels busy but shallow. From your side, it's confusing because he's not secretive. He's selective. He gives you pieces, but never the whole. And because he doesn't shut you out completely, you stay hoping that one day he'll let you in fully. But compartmentalization is not hesitation. It's a strategy. Emotionally unavailable men survive by keeping parts of themselves sealed. They learned, often early in life, that emotional exposure leads to pain, loss of control, or vulnerability they couldn't manage. So they organize their inner world into safe compartments. You may be allowed into some, but not all. An emotionally available man doesn't need to share everything immediately, but over time, access expands. He allows you to see him struggle. He allows you to witness his doubts. He allows his emotional range to be present in the connection. An emotionally unavailable man does not expand access. He maintains the same emotional distance no matter how long you've been in his life. And this is crucial. Time does not create emotional availability. Willingness does. When a man keeps you outside his inner world, he's not waiting for the right moment. He's protecting himself from exposure. And here's the hard truth. You cannot love someone into vulnerability. No amount of patience, understanding, or emotional safety will open a door he has decided to keep closed. Emotionally mature women don't force access. They don't pressure men to open up. They simply notice whether doors open naturally with time. And if they don't, they adjust accordingly. Because intimacy cannot exist without access. And access cannot exist without willingness. 5. Another clear sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he avoids future-oriented conversations or keeps them intentionally vague. This doesn't mean he never talks about the future at all. It means that whenever the future involves you, clarity disappears. He may talk about goals, plans, ambitions, but they exist in isolation. When you try to understand where you fit into his life, the answers soften, blur, or disappear entirely. He says things like, "Let's see how things go. I don't like labels. I'm just taking things day by day." On the surface, this sounds relaxed and mature, but when it repeats consistently, it's not openness, it's avoidance. An emotionally available man may move slowly, but he doesn't keep you guessing indefinitely. He allows the connection to move somewhere. Even if he isn't ready for everything, he's willing to talk honestly about direction. An emotionally unavailable man resists direction because direction creates responsibility. Future talk forces him to confront questions he doesn't want to answer yet. Am I choosing her? Am I ready to show up consistently? Am I willing to be emotionally accountable long term? So he stays vague. From your side, this keeps you suspended. You don't know whether to lean in or protect yourself. You're emotionally invested, but structurally unsure, and that uncertainty quietly drains you. Here's the key insight. Avoiding the future is not neutrality. It's a decision. A man who truly wants to build something does not leave a woman in permanent ambiguity. He may take time, but he communicates intention as it forms. Emotionally mature women don't rush the future, but they also don't live indefinitely without orientation. They listen not just to words, but to patterns. If months pass and clarity never increases, the answer is already there. This doesn't mean you confront aggressively. It means you stop organizing your emotions around someone who refuses to organize his intentions. Because emotional availability includes direction, not just presence. And a man who keeps you out of the future is keeping himself out of commitment. 6. Another strong sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he shuts down or distances himself when emotions become intense. Pay close attention to what happens during moments of emotional closeness or conflict. Not dramatic conflict, but real moments. When you express hurt, when you need reassurance, when vulnerability shows up. An emotionally unavailable man doesn't lean in during these moments. He retreats. He becomes quiet. He needs space. He disengages instead of staying present. This is not the same as needing a short pause to regulate. Everyone needs that sometimes. The difference is what happens after. An emotionally available man returns to the conversation. He may not have perfect words, but he re-engages. He wants resolution. An emotionally unavailable man avoids re-entry. He lets time pass, hoping the emotion will dissolve on its own. And often you're left holding the emotional weight alone. From your side, this creates insecurity. You start timing your feelings. You hesitate before expressing needs. You worry that being honest will push him away. And slowly, you begin shrinking emotionally to keep the connection intact. Here's the truth. A man who disappears during emotional intensity is showing you his capacity. Not his intentions, his capacity. Emotionally available men can tolerate discomfort. They stay present even when things are messy. Emotionally unavailable men experience emotional intensity as threat, not opportunity. So they escape it. This is why women often describe these men as emotionally confusing. One moment things feel connected. The next moment there's distance. And that unpredictability keeps you emotionally alert, always adjusting. But emotional safety does not come from unpredictability. It comes from consistency under pressure. Emotionally mature women don't chase men who disappear when emotions arise. They don't interpret withdrawal as depth. They recognize it as limitation. Because real intimacy isn't built in calm moments alone. It's built in how two people navigate discomfort together. If a man consistently exits when things get emotionally real, he is telling you something important. He is not available for the full spectrum of connection. And knowing that allows you to protect yourself instead of waiting for him to change. 7. Another clear sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he keeps the relationship in a holding pattern. Nothing is wrong, but nothing is moving forward either. You talk, you connect, you spend time together. Yet weeks or months pass and the relationship feels strangely unchanged. There is no deepening, no clearer commitment, no natural progression. Everything stays suspended in the same emotional place. This is not coincidence. Emotionally unavailable men often create comfort without direction. They enjoy companionship, affection, emotional warmth, but they resist evolution. Growth would require them to choose, define, and emotionally invest at a deeper level. So instead, they stall. From your side, this creates confusion because there's no clear reason to leave, but no clear reason to feel secure either. You're not unhappy enough to walk away, but not fulfilled enough to feel grounded. That limbo is exhausting. Here's the truth most women don't hear enough. Emotional availability includes momentum. A man who is emotionally available doesn't rush, but he doesn't stall indefinitely. Over time, closeness grows. Conversations deepen. Intentions clarify. Even if progress is slow, it's visible. An emotionally unavailable man keeps things comfortable but static. He may say he likes you. He may say he enjoys the connection, but his actions don't move. And when asked about progress, he often deflects with patience language. Why rush? Let's just enjoy this. Things are fine as they are. These phrases sound peaceful, but when used repeatedly, they are avoidance in disguise. Emotionally mature women understand that comfort without direction is not stability, it's stagnation. And stagnation slowly drains self-worth. You start questioning yourself. You start waiting for signs. You start investing emotionally while time passes. But time alone does not create commitment. Willingness does. A man who wants to build something allows time to work with intention, not instead of it. If you find yourself in a connection that never evolves, ask yourself gently, Is this relationship growing, or am I just getting used to it? That answer often reveals emotional unavailability more clearly than any conversation. 8. Another strong sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he intellectualizes emotions instead of experiencing them. This one is subtle because it can look like emotional intelligence at first. He can talk about emotions, he can analyze relationships, he can explain why people behave the way they do. He might even sound self-aware. But when it comes to feeling emotions in real time, especially his own, there's a disconnect. He explains instead of feels. He analyzes instead of connects. He rationalizes instead of staying present. When you express something emotional, he may respond with logic instead of empathy. He tries to solve instead of sit with you. And while this may seem helpful, it often leaves you feeling unseen. Why? Because emotional availability is not about understanding emotions. It's about being in them. An emotionally available man doesn't rush to explain your feelings away. He stays with them. He lets them exist. He doesn't need to fix them immediately. An emotionally unavailable man uses intellect as armor. Thinking feels safer than feeling. Analysis feels safer than vulnerability. From your side, this creates emotional loneliness. You're talking about how you feel, and he's responding with why it shouldn't feel that way, or why it makes sense logically, or why it's not a big deal. And over time, you stop sharing. Because sharing doesn't lead to closeness, it leads to explanation. Emotionally mature women recognize this pattern early. They don't confuse articulation with availability. They notice whether a man can feel with them, not just think about them. Because real intimacy doesn't happen in the head. It happens in presence. 9. Another sign a man is emotionally unavailable is that he relates to you more in moments than in continuity. This means the connection exists in isolated moments, not as a stable emotional thread. When you're together, things feel good. He's warm, attentive, present. But when you're apart, the connection dissolves. There's no emotional bridge between moments, no sense of emotional holding. You feel connected with him, but not connected to him. This creates emotional whiplash. Highs when you're close, distance when you're not, and no consistent emotional rhythm tying it together. Emotionally available men carry connection across time. Even when busy or distant, there's a sense of emotional continuity. You don't feel dropped. Emotionally unavailable men live in fragments. They show up when it's convenient or easy, but they don't sustain emotional presence beyond the moment. And because there's no continuity, you're always re-establishing connection, always recalibrating, always wondering where you stand. That uncertainty is not chemistry, it's emotional instability. Emotionally mature women don't confuse intensity with intimacy. They look for consistency of emotional presence, not just good moments, because real connection doesn't disappear between encounters. Part 10. The deepest sign a man is emotionally unavailable is this: he cannot meet you where you are emotionally, only where he feels comfortable. He may meet you in lightness, he may meet you in fun, he may meet you in attraction. But when you need depth, clarity, reassurance, or emotional steadiness, he falls short. Not occasionally, consistently. And that consistency matters. This doesn't make him a bad man. It means his emotional range is limited. And no amount of love can expand someone's emotional range if they are not willing to do that work themselves. This is where many women get stuck, trying to adapt themselves to fit a man's emotional comfort zone. They soften needs. They lower expectations. They normalize emotional absence. But emotional maturity is not adapting to limitation. It's recognizing it. Emotionally available men don't require you to shrink to stay connected. They meet you where you are, even when it's uncomfortable. And that is the difference between chemistry and capacity. Here is what I want you to remember. Emotional unavailability is not always loud. It is often quiet, polite, and confusing. It looks like effort without depth, presence without progress, connection without safety. And the most important truth is this: you do not fix emotional unavailability by loving harder. You reveal it by staying honest with yourself. When you stop chasing depth, stop compensating for absence, and stop waiting for potential to become reality, clarity appears. Some men will rise. Some will remain where they are. Your power is not in changing them. Your power is in choosing not to abandon yourself. The right man does not make emotional availability feel like something you have to earn. He brings it with him. And once you understand that, you stop settling for half presence and start choosing real connection.